went out looking for the girl from Ipanema. You came here in the freezing cold and the snow of a Delaware winter instead of your summer vacation. So I recommend all of you see a psychiatrist. Like the USA, Brazil is a multicultural and very diverse society. As we look around here, we can see that. And all of you have come from just a very small part of Brazil, but there's a lot of diversity among you. And we even have 2 Japanese heritage Brazilians with us, which is something new for me. Yeah. And as you know, diversity is something that we really value in the US. So it was nice to meet you in that way. We also have a lot of talents represented in our group. Besides Portuguese and English, we have speakers of French, Spanish, Italian. Did I forget anything? Japanese. Okay.
We have a drummer and a soccer player, too.
Yeah, we have a piano player, a drummer, an acupuncturist, a translator, a yogini, an artist, and at least 1 scuba diver. And we have someone who's just embarked, 2 scuba divers.
2 scuba divers.
And we have someone who's embarking on her PhD, so congratulations to Larissa. She was just accepted yesterday.
Definitely. Absolutely.
And I'm sure we have a lot more talent that I don't even know about. While you were here, we kept you quite busy, as you might remember. And as all of you learned, efficiency and achievement are American values. And remember, time is money, right?
I know this now.
Kept you very busy. You had a listening and speaking class to improve your language skills. You had an American culture class where we looked at the society in terms of its value, its history, its media, and its arts. We used films, trips, and meetings with other Americans as well as our textbooks to gain a better understanding of the people who speak this language. But what we really wanted to focus on during your time here was an opportunity to allow you to develop as teachers. And you did this in 3 ways. In your methodology classes, you focused on both theoretical and practical aspects of teaching English. In your classroom observations, you were able to see these methods and both, in practice in the lower levels, which is the kind of classes that many of you teach. And in our workshops, we drew on the collective experience of many of our ELI faculty to look at creative and dynamic approaches to teaching vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, listening, writing, and other things. In addition to your academic program, you also had a cultural program that got you out of the classroom and around the community and up and down the East Coast. You met with your host families, you visited a senior center, you had dinner with People to People International, you went to community theater, you met Delaware's Poet Laureate for a workshop, you traveled to Pennsylvania's Amish country, Washington, D.C., and New York. And you also got to meet our very own Brazilian, Carolina, who we're very jealous of, so don't try to take her back to Brazil. And we have one more thing up our sleeve. Don't forget our Brazilian coffee and music this afternoon at 4 o'clock. That's 44 Kent Way, which is just 2 blocks behind us, so we're looking forward to seeing you there. Through your encounters here on the university campus, in the large cities you visited, and through your contacts with your host families, you were able to see how Americans live their day-to-day lives. And as I've said many times, language and culture are intertwined. You cannot teach language without teaching culture. So perhaps one of the most valuable lessons that you can take back to Brazil and to your teaching situations is a better knowledge of how an Anglo-Saxon people really live. While you were here, the Winter Olympics started in Sochi, but perhaps more importantly, you saw 2 great American sporting events, the Super Bowl and the State of the Union speech. While you were here, you got to see that wonderful aspect of American culture, canceled classes when it snows. While you were here, we celebrated several birthdays. So let me say happy birthday again to Fatima, Neda, Sandra Cecilia, and Sarah Peterson.
And Thais. And Thais.
Thanks once again for that surprise birthday for me. That was really great. Thank you. I've learned while you were here just how fluent you are with American television and movies. So I want to encourage you when you go back to Brazil not to let TV and movies be the only filter for American culture that you teach your students. So now that you've been here, think about it. Again, think about the reality and all of its contrasts. all that's good and all that's bad about this country. Think again of things like the values that we talked about here, the history and government, the literature, the art, the music, the skyscrapers of New York, the diversity of the population, and our struggle for equality. These are all aspects of culture that you can use to teach language and to help your students come to a better understanding of the reality of life here in Anglo-Saxon North America. Finally, I'd like to thank everyone who made this program possible. Dr. Stevens can't be here today, but I would like to say thank you to Dr. Stevens, the director of the ELI, who gave valuable insight into the program that we offered to you. And I'd like to thank Bärbel Schumacher, our Director of International Programs, who's worked incredibly hard behind the scenes to make everything happen. You know, I always compare her to the Wizard of Oz. I want you to remember back to the giant, big, green head. Well, that's me, right? And the little man behind the curtain who really made everything happen, that's Bärbel. You didn't see her much, but she really did a lot, so thank you. I'd like to thank Joe Mathieu for his help in intake testing. And of course, thanks to Nicole and Sarah for everything that they did for us. Their parts of the program were wonderful, I think. I don't know. And we can't forget all those wonderful workshop hosts who took their time to talk to you about some of the things that are most meaningful to them about teaching. Thanks also to the listening speaking teachers who had Brazilian students, who hosted Brazilian students. And thanks to all those lower level teachers who put up with those weekly interruptions during the observations. And I'd like to single out for special thanks Carolina Correa, who's not officially part of our program, but who volunteered her time on numerous occasions to meet you and give you information about studying here at UD. So we didn't even ask her to do this. Everything she did for you was totally on her own. So really a super round of applause. And no, you cannot take her back with you. No, forget it. She's ours. And finally, thanks to all of you for coming and participating. What program would we have without you? So really, give yourselves a hand.
Good.